Interestingly, there was one song on side A, the song Salesman, and I was like, hey man, I can't find that on the Time Lock albums. It's not officially a Time Lock song, it's a Dreamcarnation song. That's a different project. There's going to be a re-release of that one as well. That was then. This is now.
Hey there kids, we are in Halo and you're watching LiveProg.
You know, when you take members from different progressive rock bands and you put them together to form one new band, they often call that a supergroup. Well, by that definition, Dreamcarnation is also a supergroup because it features members from different prog bands, mostly neo-prog bands from the 90s, bands like For Absent Friends, November, and very important of course, The Last Detail and Time Lock. I mentioned it when I did my video on Time Lock that the Dreamcarnation album would be re-released. It is out there for your listening pleasure, and this is it. And well, as you can see, the cover is completely different from the original cover. Well, the artwork, as you can see, you know, it looks kind of like it's going all the way through, although there's a little difference in it. And on the inside, you have a lot of information from the backstory of this project, a little bit of what it's about, who's involved, and especially the who's involved part is very extensive here because there are a lot of musicians involved from all kinds of bands. They all play a part in it, and here it says which artist plays on what song, which is of course a nice puzzle if you're really curious about it. In the description below this video I put a link up to the website of one of the founders of Dreamcarnation, Julian Driessen, who happens also to be the keyboard player from The Last Detail, from Time Lock, and even for a brief period the keyboard player from For Absent Friends. On that page you can find exactly the song with all the musicians that play on that particular song. That's very interesting. There's another link as well with a little bit more information about this Dreamcarnation album. I was of course very much looking forward to this because I was kind of aware that it existed, but I never had heard it. And when I did my video and mentioned the Contemporary Vintage LP from Time Lock and mentioned that there was one track on it that I could not find on the Time Lock albums, it turned out to be the track Salesman from the Dreamcarnation project. So that was the one song I knew when I was listening to this album. Dreamcarnation is a symphonic rock project, as I said, created from members from different bands put together. The founding three of Dreamcarnation are, as I said, Julian Driessen. He worked together with Rob Rehorst, who is very active in the music business, not as much as a musician himself, but as the owner, at least he's passed away unfortunately, but he was the owner of the Holland Spoor Studios, which was a renowned studio where, amongst others, the Golden Earring also recorded. So it's a very renowned studio. He and Julian put together the music, and Rob de Vries, he wrote the lyrics for this. The whole story, it's a concept album. It is based on the book, a novel, The Weave World by Clive Barker. Now, I'm not really into Clive Barker a lot. One of the reasons being that he mainly writes horror stories. I'm not really into horror. Weave World, and therefore also Dreamcarnation, is not as much horror, but it's more a dark fantasy. It's a very interesting story, and the way that they put that story to music, even without knowing the story, I must say it's very interesting to listen to it. In the end, of course, it's probably always a battle between good and evil, which pretty much is everything, isn't there? When you listen to it, and especially the world that it is set in, Weave World, is called Fugue. I really don't know how to say it correctly. You see the title on screen. That is also the first track of the album. And that starts a kind of classical, cinematical, which gives you this kind of movie vibe when you listen to it. Amongst all these musicians, this project knows 3 lead vocalists. And the first one appears on that first track, Jolanda de Vries. I gotta be honest, I've been looking to find some more background information about her, maybe other bands she sang with, and I couldn't really find anything. So I have no idea how she got involved, what her background is. But at least in that first track you get to hear her voice, which is quite nice. After that, cinematic first track, we move into Awaken, the second track on the album, and there we are introduced to the second lead vocalist who does a duet with Jolanda here, Ruud Stoker from Time Lock. I'm a big fan of Time Lock. One of the reasons is the voice of Ruud Stoker, so I'm really happy that he's in on this one. But what I did notice on that song is that it sounds like they are kind of like away from the microphone or in a room or something. There is something that creates an interesting atmosphere which really fits well in this whole theme of the album. But at the same time, I'm wondering, is this intentional or, maybe a result of the recordings? I don't know exactly. Let's just say it's intentional. That works a lot better. And in the third track, we have the third lead vocalist. So in the first three tracks, these three lead vocalists are being introduced. The third lead vocalist is Karel Messemakers from the Dutch band November. I do remember the 1st of November. That's the debut album of the band November. It kind of put me in the mind of V for Vendetta, remember the 1st of November instead of the 5th. But back then, for some reason, that band didn't really make an impression on me or something, because I never really listened to it. I never got into that band. I also know that Karel Messemakers, unfortunately, he passed away. Was also the lead singer for Plakband, also a Dutch progressive rock band, the oldest Dutch progressive rock band from The Hague. And that band got reincarnated as PB2, then they moved away, and now I recently picked up that they might be coming back. So that's interesting. All that music from many years ago is all coming back to life. It's interesting to see that. And for one, I am really happy that this album is finally being released, because I missed the original release. And I really, somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew it was there, but I never heard it. Now I finally had a chance to listen to it, and I really enjoyed listening to it a lot. It's a great album. When you have so many different musicians on the album, that's when you can create interesting stuff. And it's not just your traditional band instruments. You have your guitars, you have your bass, you have your drums, you have your keyboards, you have your vocals. You have three lead vocalists. Okay, that makes it interesting. You have backing vocalists, you have a choir. That makes it more interesting. But also, when you look at the booklet, or at least the inside of the cover, you see that it is listed, there are horns on it, there's percussion on it, trumpet on it, there's even a musical box on it, and there's violin on it. So they bring a lot of amazing instruments to create this beautiful music. Also, the different musicians from the different bands, because you have, I believe, 3 different drummers, you have 3 different guitar players, you have 3 different bass players, 4 bass players even, so they all add their own flavor to the music. And even though you have so many people involved and so many people playing the same instrument, it does not sound that you don't hear it. Let me put it that way. You don't hear that you have different people playing it. They all play at their A game really good and create a very coherent, a very beautiful album that is an absolute joy to listen to. Like I mentioned, of course, Salesman was the track that I knew, but when I listened to this one, I heard some grunts in it, and that's something they do throughout the album, is add also some effects to add to that dark fantasy horror theme, to enhance that a little bit and create this atmosphere throughout the music, which works really well. But at the same time, they also have a couple of really catchy songs. They have The Pact, they have Xenophobia. Those, when you listen to them, especially when you have the choir in there, it kind of comes off real catchy. There's one song that really stood out for me, and that was On the Run. That's track number 7 on the album. There you really have this beautiful, you have this guitar and you have Karel Messemakers singing, and you have this raw voice in it. He really does a great job on that song. I really love that song very well. Yeah, I could say so much more about this album, but you really need to listen to it yourself. I mean, if you like Time Lock, if you like For Absent Friends, if you like these Neoprog bands from the 90s, this is an album you really need to have, because it fits perfectly in it, because you hear here and there, you hear the hints of those bands in it. When I was listening to it, I heard some influence from For Absent Friends, I heard some influence from Time Lock, especially, of course, in the track Salesman. That could have been a Time Lock track, you know? So that makes it so nice that you hear the influences, but at the same time they created something something completely separate, a real nice project. It's kind of a shame that it's a one-off thing. One of the things I mentioned, there are a couple of things different from the original release. One of them is being that there is a 16th, no, that's not true, a 17th track. I should be looking correctly at the track listing. There are 16 tracks, that is the original album, but there's track 17, that is a bonus track, that's a special song that was recorded, that was composed, kind of to honor, to remember the members that participated on this album that have passed away. That's a really nice thing to do, you know, honor those who have been a part of this album and can't listen to this beautiful re-release right now as we speak. So yeah, it's out there. I've been listening to it a lot. I'm loving it very much. So all I can say is go to the Bandcamp site. There you can listen to tracks of the album. And if you like what you hear, I can only encourage you, buy the album and enjoy it. Listen to it for yourself. And if you've already heard the album, or if you know the original album, let me know in the comments what you think of it. Are you happy with it, that it's being re-released? And what is your favorite track on the album? Please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys what you think. And so far, I'd say thanks for watching, enjoy the music, and hope to see you guys with the next video. The whole project was created between 1995 and 2000, and in 2000 this album was originally released. The reason why we got a remaster is mainly because Julian Driessen found the pre-master files of this project, and he thought like, wow, cool, now we can do a proper re-release. So he worked on them. Martin Hendrix from MHX Music, I think, Music Productions, he did the remastering. He's also the guitar player of the current lineup of Time Lock. He did a great job in remastering this, and also the artwork, it's nice to see that. It's a digi sleeve with a lot of information on the inside, but no booklet, unfortunately. And of course, and that's a bit the problem with the digi sleeves, you have to take out the CD with your fingers, and that's kind of a shame, but anyway, this is the CD then.